Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Building Audiences for Dance, Lessons from Alvin, Ailey, American Dance Theater, and Pacific Northwest Ballet. This is a Dance USA webinar on audience building featuring resources from the Wallace Foundation. We're excited to bring you two speakers today to talk to you about building audiences. Thank you for joining us. Today, here we have some tips. Our speakers today are Thomas Cott, Senior Director of Marketing and Creative Content at Alvin, Ailey, American Dance Theater. Thomas Cott joined the Ailey organization in 2008 and oversees its brand management, audience engagement initiatives, earned revenue campaigns, and media projects. His wide-ranging career to date has encompassed producing and administrative roles in dance, theater, music, and video, taking him from Broadway to television, from Lincoln Center to Ailey. Our second speaker today is Lia Chiarelli. She is the Director of Marketing and Communications at Pacific Northwest Ballet. Lia has spent her career marketing her favorite arts organization, Pacific Northwest Ballet. Her areas of expertise earned revenue optimism, community management, and advertising and promotional campaigns. A Seattle native, Ms. consults on a variety of topics related to ticketing, social, arts administration. And with that, I will turn the webinar over to Thomas Cott, who will tell you a bit about the Ailey project and building audiences. Over to you, Thomas.
I was explaining that Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater is about 60 years old, and we're a modern dance company known primarily for celebrating the African-American cultural experience. And we perform for millions of people of many different backgrounds on tour around the world, as well as on TV, on film, and online. Mr. Ailey often said that dance came from the people, and it should always be delivered back to the people, and so we always aim to serve as wide an audience as possible. While we reach an estimated 500,000 people each year through live performances and educational activities, we run up against the same challenges that many nonprofits face as times, trends, and technology evolves. Additionally, as we begin to feel the impact of the baby boomer generation's gradual retirements and of the widening gap between that generation's level of exposure to the arts and the exposure that millennials have experienced, the need to identify effective and affordable audience-building strategies that capture the interest and investment of millennials is paramount to our ongoing survival. Ailey places tremendous value in the millennial age group as it represents not only a prime target for growth in ticket sales, but the next wave of donors whose generosity and patronage over time will be essential to sustaining our organization. And although we perform around the world, we decided to focus our project in the Wallace Initiative on increasing millennial attendance in our home city of New York, specifically during our annual 5-week season at City Center each December. At the outset of this project, our data indicated that millennials were about 10 to 15% of our New York City audience, even though millennials here are about 20 to 22% of the population. And just a side note for this project, although most people would consider millennials to include anyone between the ages of 18 and 34, we opted to narrow our project to people in their 20s to keep the focus on people just out of college and before they get too settled down. We're about to embark on the second of 2 learning cycles, but today I'm going to talk through the results of our first learning cycle, which happened last year. For this first round, we set a short-term goal of increasing attendance during our City Center season by millennials by another 2,000 buyers, which would be about a 43% increase over the prior year. Ailey did both quantitative and qualitative research in the form of online surveys and focus groups to study millennials' potential interest in attending Ailey and what barriers exist. Perhaps not surprisingly to those listening into this webinar, our research showed 3 major areas on which we needed to focus our efforts, which we call the 3 Ps, the first of which is programming. Research confirmed that millennials are looking for cultural activities that connect to what is going on in their lives and in the world around them. The Ailey Company has always presented ballets with content that taps into contemporary issues, and in 2016 it was no different. We added 3 new works to our repertory that we thought would entice millennials to check us out including the ballet shown in this photo, which was Kyle Abraham's piece, Untitled America, which shines a light on the impact of the prison system on African American families. The next P is for pricing. Research showed, not surprisingly, that for people who had never seen an Ailey performance, they were not willing to commit a lot of money up front for a ticket. $25 and $50 were cited as the two price points that were most appealing to millennials. Now, we already offer about 270 tickets, which is about 12% of the house, at the price of $25, as well as other tickets at $50. But we wanted to do something even more special for millennials, and so we dedicated the second night of our season to what we called Young New York Night, where all the seats in the house, 2,200 seats, were $25. In addition, for all the other performances throughout the rest of the season, we offered great seats that normally cost $90 at a subsidized price of $50. For both offers, the buyer had to be in their 20s, but their guests could be any age. And we spot-checked proof of age when people picked up their tickets at the box office to make sure people were not taking advantage of this, who were not in our target age group. And the last P is for performance extras, or I guess you could say parties. Our research showed that offering an added social component to a performance was appealing to millennials. So we created 4 social events connected to different performances during the season. One was a professional networking event. We did a meet and greet with some of the dancers at a cocktail party, as well as our artistic director, Robert Battle. We had a class taught by some instructors from our Ailey Extension program, and we did a dance party with a popular local DJ. The first 3 events I mentioned were held at City Center, either before or after the performance, and the dance party was held at the Ailey Studios, which is just a few blocks from the theater. All of these events were offered for free to millennials who purchased a ticket for any Ailey performance during the 2016 season. To get the word out to millennials about the events and the greater Young New York program, we hired a marketing agency called Team Epiphany to help develop some social media content and also identify a small group of influencers who have millennial followers online. This group included people from the worlds of media, fashion, music, and more. And we also assembled some additional influencers tapping into millennial employee groups at companies where our board members work, as well as others who were identified by our staff or by community partners. So, how did it go? In terms of programming, attendance at the performances that included at least one or more of the new works that premiered during the season was strong, but post-season surveys and an analysis of ticket sales data also showed that millennials opted to see, or at least enjoyed when they saw, many of the classic works in the Ailey repertory, with survey comments singling out ballets choreographed by Mr. Ailey himself from the early 1960s and 70s, including his signature masterpiece, Revelations, shown in the photo here. We also learned that day of the week and curtain time were as important or more important to millennials than the actual repertory being performed. Saturday matinee turned out to be the most popular amongst young people, and probably not a surprise to you, we also saw that millennials' purchase behavior showed that they made the decision to buy tickets really close to the performance as compared to the non-millennial ticket buyers, often right up against the curtain time, which was real nail-biting experience. And then in terms of pricing, we also had some surprising results there. Research had indicated, as I mentioned, that millennial prospects would only be willing to pay between $25 and $50. We tracked about 7,500 tickets that we sold to millennials during the season at a $63 per cap. So that's higher, obviously, than what they said they were willing to pay. And if you take out the $25 tickets we sold for our Young New York night, that per cap actually grows to $71 a ticket. That said, the Young New York night was clearly a big hit. We had about 2,000 people show, and about 95% of them were in our target age range. It's a really fun evening, which kicked off with a bit of a stunt. Our artistic director, Robert Battle, and some of the dancers came out on stage before the performance to participate in the mannequin challenge. Those of you remember that craze from last year. Not only did Robert and the dancers freeze in place on stage, but the whole audience gave us their best pose as we videotaped the whole thing. And then the video got shared online with tens of thousands of people via social media. It was a great way to kick off the season, really. Overall, last season, we saw a 62% increase in millennial attendance year over year, which was far greater than our quite, I thought, ambitious goal of 43%, which I didn't think we could actually achieve, but that's great. We estimate that about half the tickets we sold were to new people, either first-time or lapsed millennial buyers, for total incremental revenue of $220,000. The performance extras were a mixed bag, to be honest. Attendance varied greatly at each of the 4 events, from just 8 people who came to the pre-performance fitness class we offered, which may have more to do with the fact that people didn't want to get sweaty before they had to sit in the theater, to about 150 people who came to the dance party. And in the photo, you can see the special lighting we had in the 5th floor studio where we had the party. So, I should have said that the good news about the events was that the people who attended the parties, 90% of them in post-event surveys said they were excellent or very good, and a little more than half said that they were likely or more likely to attend another Ailey performance having come to one of these events. So that was encouraging. Some takeaways. What are things that you can apply to what we learned to what you're doing? First and foremost, I think it's really important to underscore the idea that you make data-driven decisions and not just trust your gut. Some easy things to do are to age append your ticket sales data, working with your list management service. It doesn't have to be expensive. It might even be free. If your company is one of the many that are part of these big list databases that are run by TRG in 22 cities around the country, that is a feature of the data center product, so you can do that for free. And I also recommend doing a short survey. You can use SurveyMonkey or do a short poll on social media. Those are free or low-cost ideas that can help provide insights to prove or disprove any assumptions you may have about your audience and what they're interested in. Also, be sure to leverage your existing audience members. Offer a perk or a discount if they bring in new people is not a new thought, but it's particularly effective with younger people. And also the idea of using local influencers to spread word of mouth online. That probably was the most impactful thing we did. You can't buy the value of word of mouth that's spread by other people. And then collect as many email addresses as you can. We are very aggressive about doing name collection at performances. We have a program insert, and we have students from the Ailey School who walk up and down the aisles collecting them during the pre-show and intermissions. And about half of the audience data that we have is from those slips of paper that we collect at performances. And why is this important? Well, email lists, among other things, can help you with your ad targeting on social media. So if you use Facebook ads or Instagram ads, sponsored posts, you can upload the email list into Facebook and Instagram, and that gives you a much more robust reach in terms of who you're targeting your ads to. And then the last two things are more general. The quote that I often reference is this idea that price is only an issue when value is a mystery. People say they can't afford something, but what they really mean is that they don't think it has enough value to pay more than X amount of money. So the goal, of course, is to develop a conversation with potential audience members around why seeing a performance is worth not only the money, but their time and attention. And remember that research showed many of our millennial prospects said they wouldn't spend more than $25 on a ticket, but the reality was that the average ticket price paid by a millennial last year was about $71, if you take out the Young New York Night number. And finally, it's important to think about your bottom line and making revenue goals, but it's equally important to know when to sell and not to sell. Always be closing is a mantra that got popularized in David Mamet's play Glengarry Glen Ross, but to close the deal, as Mamet would have you do, you often need to ease off on the hard sell. So think about sharing non-promotional content on a more regular basis. We work with a digital marketing firm, as many of you probably do, Capacity Interactive, and they talk a lot about the 70-30 rule, meaning 70% of the messaging you send out should be what your audience wants to know and or see, and 30% should be what you want them to know or see. Also, invite people to participate, not just sit in the dark for 2 hours. One of the great things that we did last year was put a photo booth in the lobby. It's a very, low concept idea, but just doing that was a great way to engage with people, and they also shared the images from the photo booth widely, and that was another way of getting the message out in a fun way. And while this may be ironic, Coming from a guy who's just talked nonstop at you for the last 15 minutes or so, the last recommendation is to listen more than you talk. One of the things that we did after last season was establish a Young New York Advisory Committee, and they've been a great sounding board as we refine our plans for this year's City Center season. We've engaged with them through some social events as well as more sort of formal meetings, emails, and phone calls to get feedback and help in planning and executing the next wave of our initiative. One of the recommendations, by the way, was to increase the ticket price for Young New York Night from $25 to $35 this year. And thus far, we haven't really seen a big resistance to the price increase. Also, with their input, we are switching from the subsidized ticket offer we did last year to a BOGO, or buy one, get one discount, which is a more familiar promotion and easier to communicate quickly to their friends. So that's it for me for now. I'm happy to answer questions at the end, but I'm going to hand things over to Lia to talk about P&B's Wallace Project. Lia?
Great. Thanks, Thomas. Hi, everybody. So P&B is 45 years old, and young audience development has always been paramount to our work. We're really grateful for this grant because it's provided us the opportunity to design some special programming and then to actually test the results. So that's exciting. So we started this project in 2014, and to date we've done 2 rounds of qualitative research, 1 quantitative project, and then we've also been sending out post-performance surveys after every production for the last 2 seasons. The central problem we were seeking to solve was how can we grow our 25 to 40-year-old audience while retaining our existing one? And just so you know where we started and where we've gone so far, in 2014, 24% of our total audience was 25 to 40. Today, that percentage has grown by 5% to 29% of the total ticket buying audience is between the ages of 25 and 40. 58% of our audience was Gen X and younger in 2014. Today, it's 60%. And today, 1 in 3 buyers are between the ages of 24 and 44. So who are our audiences aged 25 to 40? What have we learned through all that research that was really popped up in all the different places where we were looking for data that we can apply universally to the P&B audience that we currently have that's 25 to 40 years old? First and foremost, they love dance. This might seem obvious, but their brand awareness of P&B was really high, even for new to Seattle people, and a lot of them have some sort of a dance background. Most people ages 25 to 40 first come to P&B via the Nutcracker. The second most common entry point is a full-length ballet like Swan Lake or Sleeping Beauty. 29% of P&B's first-time buyers come back. So the more times we can get somebody 25 to 40 to attend, the more adventurous they get in their ticket buying pattern. So if they come to Nutcracker twice, on that third visit, you probably will be able to convince them to come and see a mixed length or a mixed repertory ballet. The audience overall is highly educated. More of them have a postgraduate degree than even just a graduate degree. And we're having quite the population boom here in Seattle. 1 in 4 of our 25 to 40-year-old buyers are new to Seattle. Oh, I skipped my slide. There you go. Take that in real quick. Moving on. What have we learned about both the current audience that we have and the audience that we're trying to attract? All of the people that we talk to view attending a live arts event as an opportunity to check out from the real world and be in the moment. One focus group participant said, and I love this, that I love that I'm getting to sit in my seat and watch this piece of art unfold in this unique way for one time, and it's the only time it'll ever happen that way, and I get to be a part of it. We had a notion that people might be interested in things like sections where you can tweet and that kind of thing, and they really don't. They want to come and have an experience and unplug from their real life. Word of mouth affirmation for your performances and your brand is very valuable. They like drinks. If there's a way they can get their hands on a reduced drink or a free drink, that helps. They're very aware of the P&B brand. They know we do Nutcracker, but they're also very cognizant of the talent of our dancers, our interesting programming, where the theater is, that kind of thing. Digital tools are really important for this age group. They want it to be easy to buy tickets, find information, and share content, and they really don't have a lot of patience when those things don't work well. They're very aware of the demographics on stage and in the audience, and they expect P&B's values to mirror their values around racial representation in ballet. They don't expect everybody in the audience to be their age or look exactly like them, but they do want to see a variety of people and know that they belong in your audience. Attending a performance is a social occasion. It's a chance to be with people that they like, and a big part of the experience is what happens for them before the show, during the intermission, and after the performance. These people value their resources, and by resources I mean both money and time. And they want to know that affiliating themselves with P&B says something positive about who they are as a person too. They're socially conscious, artistically vibrant people, and they expect P&B to mirror those values. So with that knowledge, we designed a number of different programs, but three that I'm going to talk to you quickly about today. The first two are ticket buying initiatives. So the Pointe is something we've done for 2 seasons now. And what it is an opt-in email database that was conceived as a way to attract the target age group to the ballet. Currently, we have over 4,000 members in the Pointe, and the initial response to the program was really good. We got to 2,500 enrollees really quickly, and we invited people to join the program through an age pen that Thomas was also talking about on our own database, and through different targeted Facebook advertising and some banner advertising campaigns. Once we had a list rolling, we just started testing offers. The tone and the look of the emails that we sent reflected what we heard in those focus groups, that people want simple, clean information with imagery that's beautiful, a great deal, and an easy call to action. So currently we change up the offers with each program. The savings are really significant for members. Average ticket price for a Pointe ticket for our most recent program was $32. The average ticket price overall was $65, so about half. This program is very low budget. There's no print materials. There was in the beginning. We did a few things, but now that it's up and rolling, we don't, and I don't think we needed them. It's primarily managed through email communications and Facebook ads. So here's the results. How did it go? I think it's really important to say that the Pointe represents only 6% of our total new-to-file audience members in that age group, 25 to 40. But they're really, really important to us because of how they behave and how sticky they are once they buy a ticket. They outperform their peers in the target age group who are not Pointe members in a number of ways. They open their emails, they click on their emails, and they act on them at double the rate of a regular patron. Even more importantly, probably, they come back. The in-season retention rate for a new-to-file Pointe buyer is 50%. For a non-Pointe member, it's 16%. And how much money did we make? That's important, too. First season we did this, we made $46,000 and sold about 1,400 tickets. Last year we made $70,000 and sold just shy of 1,900 tickets. Where we're at with the program right now, adding new members has kind of slowed down, so our efforts are about activating the list that we currently have and getting more of those 4,000 people to buy tickets, because we've really demonstrated how valuable they are to the organization once we can get them to make that initial purchase. So once we felt like we had that down, we thought, well, let's come up with another strategy to move some more tickets. And we conceived this beer and ballet program, which is not unique to P&B. There's a number of us probably on the call, too, who have programs like this at your own organizations. And we dived into your materials heavily, so thank you for that. If you see anything here you like, you're welcome to steal it, too. So what is beer and ballet? It's conceived as a way to move inventory on our historically slow evening, which is our Thursday night performance. What it was a main floor seat, which we marketed at $29, and we called it a main floor seat, not an orchestra seat, because we know that everybody knows what main floor means. And we coordinated with our hall to provide a beverage with it. We decided it was too complicated to package the ticket with the actual drink, so we just worked with them to have cheap drinks available that people could buy. There were $5 cans of beer. So we launched this program last March, and it went crazy. The Facebook event that we made for it was all over the place, and we think that had a lot to do with what Facebook was supporting at the time and the algorithm in terms of events, which are still popular but maybe not as popular as they were last spring. But it kind of went a little bit viral on us, which was always exciting, what we're always trying to do, right? So how has this gone? So we've done this 4 times. Like I said, we started last spring, so we've had 4 performances where we've marketed a beer and ballet event. Tickets were $29 last year. For our recent production of Jules, we bumped that up to $39, and we didn't have any hesitation or see any attrition in the tickets, so that was good. So far, we've sold $33,000 in tickets and over 1,000 tickets. Great social buzz to this program. People like it. They just kind of get it. It seems like an easy entree for people who are already affiliated with us to get their friends who maybe they've been trying to convince to come to the ballet with them to come and see a show. Also important, very little work, and a growing list of people to remarket to who are interested in the program. So that's been a hit. And the last activity I want to talk to you about today is sculptured dance. This is totally different from the first two things I talked about. Sculptured dance is our capstone event of our Wallace project. And the question we were seeking to answer when we designed sculptured dance is, if we produce a free, community-minded event with a really strong local partner, can we attract attendance to that event and also inspire those attendees to purchase tickets to our main stage programming? So we've done this twice. They happen in the summer. The events are free, they're open to the public, and they take place at Seattle Art Museum's outdoor Olympic Sculpture Park, which is a gorgeous park. I think it's like 7 acres overlooking the water. And it's part of their existing programming, which was really important in the first year because they had a built-in audience of people who were coming to these free Summer at Sam evenings that they produce. The program is designed by our artistic director, Peter Bohl, and what he's doing with this partnerships is making connections between different dance groups and choreographers. So some of the dance is from P&B, some of it is from other local dance groups in town, and the choreographers are also a mix of people who are in-house at P&B and then other choreographers that we have been wanting to work with within the community. This provides an opportunity for us to do so. The style of the event is that the works are repeated throughout the course of the evening, and the goal is that people will wander around and see some or all of the works in a festival-style atmosphere. In our first year, the attendance way outpaced what we expected, which for a marketing person was thrilling. We'd collected data on about 1,000 people, but had 5,000 people show up. So as awesome as that was, it was also really hard to track what happened to them afterwards. So in our second year, we worked really hard to pre-register people and check them in on site, which yielded some great results. My colleague, Kristen Raymer-Liang, was the genius behind the data collection plan, and she really worked all year on it. So if anybody on the call is doing this kind of free programming and wondering how you collect data on people, we would love to share with you what you've learned. You can just follow up with me directly. In this most recent one that we just completed, we collected data on 58% of the total attendees. So now we have this great data set, and we're starting to work with it. What we're trying to do is convince them to come back and see a main stage program. And to date, we've had 34 households convert to regular ticket buyers, which is pretty fantastic because we've only had one program so far this year. Okay, key takeaways. Younger audiences are not that different in their entry points to P&B. They usually come to us first via Nutcracker or a full-length ballet. What is different about our younger audiences is the tools that they use to purchase and to plan. If you have the opportunity to test ticketing initiatives to move some unused inventory, try it. The worst thing that can happen is that you won't sell any new tickets, and the more simple and easy to execute you can make it, the better. That will give you the ability to really track what happened afterwards and make adjustments as you move forward. Facebook has been a very powerful tool for us for inexpensively targeting people and trying new things. Facebook changes a lot, so what worked once might not work the next time you try it, so be open with their new products and nimble with your efforts. In our experience with the Pointe, we really found that keeping those individuals out of the regular P&B email marketing machine has been fruitful. Because their open, click, and unsubscribe rates are so great, it demonstrates to us that we are serving their interests better when we really fine-tune the messages that we deliver to that group. And what people say and what they will buy can be two very different things. We hear a lot in our focus group research that people want to come and see really unconventional programming, but the ticket buying data doesn't really bear that out. People do appreciate that more eclectic programming, but they usually get there after they've had a relationship with us that's been established through something more traditional. And that wraps up my slides.
Thank you, Leah. This is Joanna from Dance USA. Now we're in the question and answer session. Please feel free to send in your questions through the public chat. Since everyone's been comfortable using that, feel free to send them in there. I'm going to kick things off with a few questions here to get things started. And this is for both Thomas and Lia, and why don't we start with Thomas and then Lia. So the first question I have is, what were some surprising takeaways from your project that you could share with the group?
Well, I think about two things. I mean, one, Lia just pointed to, which is what people say and what they do are very different sometimes. We found that also in terms of programming-related things on our end, but also in terms of pricing and even in terms of the events. So, listen to what people have to say, test it out. It may not always pay off. It's a process. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think just being able to contextualize the answers you hear, and the more you do it, the more you can sort of translate, I guess, is part of that. Another thing which I guess wasn't so much surprising but encouraging as a takeaway, which I didn't mention before, is this project really enabled us to involve and empower a lot of our millennial staff who wouldn't otherwise necessarily have played a role in this kind of marketing effort. People who don't work in marketing worked on this project, and it was great to really to bring them into the process and to get their input and have them take parts of the project under their wing and work with it. And that was really a great bonus to this whole project for us.
I think from our work, one of the most surprising things is that younger audiences really don't behave that differently from other audiences in terms of what they expect from us and what they like about us. Those things are a lot more similar than we might have thought before we actually had hard data to confirm that. So just knowing that there's some comfort in that, right? They come to ballet because they like ballet, and the ways in which they navigate through your organization haven't really changed that much over time. I think the tools have changed a lot, obviously, but in terms of the appeal of a live performance experience, that really has been held steady across all the age groups that we work with. I can answer the one about merchandise sales at our performances. We do have merchandise sales, and I don't know about how important that is to attendees 25 to 40. We found, though, what they are really interested in is drink specials.
Yes. Actually, that was the interesting thing about Young New York Night. We had double the usual amount of drinks sold at the concession stand that night. It was a real interesting thing because we thought everyone wanted everything to be cheap or free, and no, they were really willing to pay real prices for real drinks. So that was interesting. And I see a question here about how much we spent on the outside marketing firm and local influencers. It was about $50,000, which is a big chunk of money, obviously, but it was a quite extensive campaign that they worked on, and so yeah, I mean that was something that we probably couldn't have done by ourselves without the support of the Wallace grant. But I think we learned a lot through working with them about how we can, and they actually gave us part of it. The reason it cost so much was they created this whole social media playbook for us that we've been using on our own since then. So that was a really helpful tool.
There's another question about mass media that both of you used to promote events and performances. Could you guys talk to that?
I think, as Lia mentioned, we didn't really do any sort of mass general marketing for the Young New York program. We wanted to make sure that it was very targeted messaging, A, because we wanted to make sure we were reaching the right people, and B, because we didn't want to, upset anybody who was not in the target group, who might feel that, they were missing out on something. And we were pretty successful in keeping the two sort of separate. So we did targeted emails, we did targeted Facebook and Instagram posts, we did these influencer things that were sort of I guess they were available to the public to look at, but unless you were, already looking there, I don't think you would necessarily have been aware of it. And the fact that we didn't have really any abuse of people outside the age target buying tickets with the promo code, I was, pleasantly surprised by that too.
Yeah, ditto to everything Thomas said. For us, we don't use mass marketing to promote these programs. It's very targeted, inexpensive tools for the same reasons. We don't want to alienate people who are spending more per ticket, and that's just a better way of finding those people.
Okay. Another question is, what was the percent of first-time arts buyers, and how did you reach them? This is someone asking, saying they understood that your ticket buyers had previous attendance experience with your organization.
For us, it depends on the kind of programming that it is. For a mixed bill, it's typically 12 to 13% of the audience is new to file. For a full-length ballet, it's more like 25% is new to file, and for something like Nutcracker, it's half.
Yeah, our numbers are somewhat similar. It's different in every place we go, but at City Center, I think it depends on the season, but about 40% are brand new first-timers. I don't know actually how that, we didn't break that out in terms of millennials versus non-millennials, but that's sort of a regular average number for us.
Lia, here's a question for you. At Beer and Ballet, do you see more men attending performances than usual?
Yes. And I can only speak to that anecdotally, and there were a number of man buns in the audience that night, too. It was very cute. It was very hip with their cans
and another
of
question.
beer.
Another question for Lia. What is the membership fee for the Pointe program?
That's a great question. There is none. It's free. We've tried to make it really, really easy to enroll. You can check it out at pnb.org/thepointe, I think. We don't ask for age verification either. We use that same tool that Thomas referenced, where we throw all of our Pointe members into the TRG database just to make sure that people are being honest when they sign up, that they really are in the age demographic that we're looking for. And we don't see a lot of abuse, so we've decided not to add a barrier of sending us their, their driver's license or something. So it's all free.
Thomas, here's a question for you. For Ailey Young New York Night, did you assess normal service and ticket fees?
Another great question. Actually, the folks at City Center were very generous and allowed us to absorb the fee into the price, so there was no additional service fee to the customer that evening, and that was really great. We're doing that again this year because it can get very expensive. So the customer just paid. Well, I'm sorry, I should say that there was a facility fee on top of the $25 tickets of $250, so people paid $27.50.
Okay. Here's another. In terms of general production marketing to existing patrons and general community, any marketing tips that you can share? Why don't we start with you? Go to Lia.
One of the things that we learned in those focus groups was that people expect our materials to reflect the beauty of what they're seeing on stage, and they really shy away from something that feels like a hard sell. If you're on our mailing list, chances are you're already you're there because you like us, because you bought a ticket. So they want the pieces that we mail to them to reflect the beauty that they see on stage. So with that information, we really tried to refine the calls to action on the things that we send in the mail and make things so beautiful. I think we've always tried to do this, but maybe sort of simplify some of the designs so that we were making things that people would really want to keep and put on their refrigerator as a reminder. We used to always promote the next production in the back of our direct mails, and they hated that, so that went away. I know.
And I would just add, video is really important, and so we have been putting more resources, financial resources, behind the creation of video content. And actually, we just launched this week the first in what's going to be a year-long series of videos released through social media of non-promotional video content that captures the Ailey dancers in a way that they're not used to being seen. These are sort of little 1 or 2 minute emotional stories that have nothing to do with the repertory or being in a rehearsal studio, or it's not a behind-the-scenes video. It's just content that we hope will be virally shared, and that's the sort of next direction for us. We're trying to, think like a 21st century content creating company and not just do stuff the way we always did just because that's the way we always did them. So that means trimming back on print and broadcast and some of the traditional things that we've done in the past and making way for more digital and other kinds of content online.
Thank you. Lia, there's a question for you now. Of the people who purchased after the free sculpture dance event, were they new and in your target age?
Yeah, hi Susan. They were new and in the target age. So we pulled out the people who were new to file or super lapsed from those that RSVP'd to the event, and those are the ones that we're targeting with these promotions to come back and see a main stage show. So yes.
There's another question for you, Lia. For the Pointe mailing list, are you concerned about people never aging out of it and only buying the discount tickets?
I'm just happy that they're buying tickets. Not really.
Okay.
We found that they move sort of faster up the pyramid of engagement, I guess you'd say, than a regular new to file audience member. So we've managed to migrate more of them into our young professionals group, which we see the Pointe as kind of a gateway to for those who are interested in engaging more deeply with the company, and then on to subscription and donation. So, no, I don't really worry about that.
Okay. Here's another Pointe program question. Are there any other added benefits to being a member of the Pointe program that you haven't mentioned yet?
In the emails that we send, we sometimes do giveaways for other organizations' performances. We've had some special kind of auxiliary events just for that group, that kind of thing. But again, we're trying to keep it really, really simple and about generating a new audience that can move into this sort of existing programming that we already have. We already do a lot of education events. So instead of making up new ones just for this group, maybe how we talk about those education events shifts a little bit, but the goal is to kind of integrate them into our regular programming, which is young and hip and fun.
And here's another question. Do you offer parking discounts? I don't know if both of you can speak to this or not.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, we don't. But New York, I mean, a lot of our audience is local, takes subways or walks or cabs or Ubers. But I mean, we don't have a huge portion of audience that is looking to park. Manhattan is, not the greatest place to go parking a car, unfortunately.
Can you tell us more about your Young Professionals program? This maybe for both of you?
Sure, we have one.
Are you talking about young patrons?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Lia. Why don't you start?
Okay, sure. We have one that's called the Young Patron Circle, and it's been around since 2001. And there's about 200 members. So we really do view the Pointe as a place to generate, one of the things that the Pointe does is generates prospects for that group who are really interested in being super involved with P&B. Not everybody is, and that's what part of this work is. It's about meeting people where they're at. Maybe you do want to just come to a show once a year, but you're very invested in that experience, and you're not eventually going to be a donor. That's okay. But some of those Pointe people, they absolutely are, and they're going to want to become more and more involved as time moves on. Yeah,
and it's similar for us at Ailey. I will say that the Young Patron Circle, we did try and be very clear about what the differences were, so we were not pulling people away from the young patient circle, that there are definitely advantages to becoming and benefits that you wouldn't get unless you were part of the circle. But we also did some cross-pollination, so one of the 4 events was actually a shared event between the young patient circle members and just young people in their 20s who took advantage of the Ailey Young New York program. And so they came to the meet and greet with the artists, and it was about half and half, I'd say, people from YPC and from the Young New York program. That worked really well. And we also have, I think it's now 2 people from the Young Patients Circle advising us on the Young New York committee that we formed. So just trying to figure out, like, what the next steps are. I mean, obviously we didn't expect anybody to sign up to become a donor after one visit to a performance. That's not really how it works. But, you know, the long game here is that eventually if people get, you know, more engaged and more excited about coming back, that we can convert, you know, some portion of them into at least a low-level donor, if not into the Young Patient Circle itself, which starts at $250 donation.
Okay. Thomas, there's another question for you. Can you give a few highlights of the social media playbook that you use?
Sure. For $50,000, I'd be happy to. No, just kidding. I mean, a lot of it was just about thinking differently about the visuals and the content that we put on our Instagram account, which was the main focus of what they helped us with. But we also talked with them about the connection with influencers and how we would develop materials for them. It was a very comprehensive sort of big picture think, as well as the detail of this is how you do a pictogram or, you know, cinemagraph or whatever they're called, kind of detail. So it was a mixture of, you know, strategy and also tactics. But Rob, if you want to talk to me offline, send me an email and we can talk.
Okay, 2 more questions. Whoops, they're coming in quickly. What influences? Oh, I'm sorry. Were influencers sourced from your current audience or from outside populations?
Yes, both. I mean, as I mentioned in my presentation, getting referrals from your current audience is a great way to start. But we also, one of the purposes behind the influencers that we identified was to reach into communities that we weren't already being in contact with or enough. Part of the research that we did at the start of this showed that despite having a fairly large following on Facebook and Instagram, for at least the prospects who came through the research, they didn't have a high awareness of Ailey as a brand. So we were trying to figure out how to get into other circles of people online who went beyond the usual suspects. And so that was a big point of the influences that we did identify, in part through Team Epiphany and in part through these other outlets we talked about, board members, company, employee groups, or community partners, that kind of thing. And also, I think these viral videos that we're beginning to roll out hopefully will connect us to people who are not already in our universe and might intrigue them enough to come to our website and find out more about what Ailey is about.
And one final question here. Do you see your school families engaging in these programs that you've discussed?
We do a bit, and that's a great question because something I've been thinking about is how do we scale this conversation we're having that's very tailored to a specific group for a different audience. And I think that next audience that we should be tackling is our school families, because P&B has a school with over 1,100 families in it. And a lot of them attend, but not all of them attend, and we're not really familiar with the ways in which they engage with the audience. So that is absolutely a place of opportunity for us. And the point is more, I wouldn't say it has kind of a family focus. I'm curious about what it would look like for us if we started a program that did.
And for Ailey, we actually have a separate initiative to get school families to come see our performances, and that's really because the age of the parents is really older than the 20-something group, generally speaking. And so we think of them as two separate niches that we need to go after with different messaging. But yeah, I think it's a great place for us to tap as well.
Okay, great. Oh, one more question. Does either dance institution do any special marketing toward their adult students who fall into the millennial group?
Sure, we definitely did. Our extension program I mentioned is we call Real Classes for Real People, and the vast majority of them are people in their 20s and early 30s, although we've had people of all ages. We have, grandmothers in their 80s coming to take Zumba. But, so yeah, we definitely let people know about the Young New York program through our extension program, I should say, and so that was another outlet for us.
And we do too.
All right. Well, thank you, Thomas, and thank you, Lia, and thank you, everybody on the phone and on their computers that took time out of their day. Thank you for Thomas and Lia for sharing your expertise, and we appreciate everyone joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody.